The time has come for lions to tell I and I own story. Yes, you're listening to Lion's Voice. I and I is Ras Tafari hailing from the island of St. Croix. Yeah, I'm bringing to you Ras Tafari vibes. Can you feel it? Ras Tafari. Babylon born when Rasta come together. Can you feel it? Rastafari, because Babylon done when I and I come together. Look how we live together, look how we work together, Oh, Babylon done when Rasta come together. Hail I, Rastafari, His Majesty and Empress men and blessed. Yeah man, hailing from St. Croix, Rastafari, hail you.
Aye.
What are you waiting for? Come together, calling from near and far. Know who you are. What are you waiting for? Rally up, it's Exodus. What are you waiting for? Ancestors paved the way for us. Yes, I am Ketis Oyonde, asking, what are you waiting for to come together? The time has come for the lions to tell our own story. This is the Lion's Voice.
So when I moved from my father, I used to come back to Kwando and go to normal, regular Sunday church until I discovered the Royal Faith, thinking that they would be better than the Roman. But I went there once, I realized that they were joking because they criticize Roman, they do everything, but they observe all the Roman laws. Christmas, Easter, everything, but they say it's Roman papacy, Roman. So this opened my mind so much. Then that was the first place I heard Ethiopia in the Bible. So when I heard Ethiopia in the Bible, I began to look for some more black things. So my eagerness to move out of the Roman Catholicism and church culture now. So I stayed for a number of months or years without going to church. Until one brethren came to me and told me about Sabbath. And that brethren who told me about Sabbath was a man that I forced him to be a Rasta man, because when I go wild, many people begin to get shocked because they know I was a very brilliant student in school. So everybody began to ask me questions. And there was my uncle who came from Accra. He said something that upset me so much that he said there was one young youth who was wearing some cap in his work side. He asked what was the boy doing, and they say he want to grow locks. And he said the boy should go and remove the cap, go to barber shop the same minute, otherwise the man will lose the job. So when they say this is a drink and happy, I feel bad about how can somebody lose job being a young youth. So me, I was feeling badly different, but they were doing this happiness and drink and So we were two who was visiting Dofos and Levi. So that uncle came out and said, they saw one of our brothers, they call him Gave. So they said, what was Gave doing? Gave come and he chose the name Gave as well, because we begin to know about Marcus Gave. And there was my brother who was our very influencer somebody, because he used to play culture when he want to learn. He used to stay in Accra. He was a polytechnic student. But when he come back to holidays, he played culture throughout, dawn time, late night, every time he was playing culture. And then there was a younger brother in the house who used to talk about culture, that they don't stay at home, they are spiritual people. So they begin to let me know the mystification of Rastafari when they were not racists. My older young brothers who were bald-headed, they begin to say, when they talk, they say Benny Spears. Even it's hard you hear reggae. Reggae was on cassette. So when people were migrating from Nigeria, they brought a lot of tape with 4 batteries and cassette, and you were hearing about more of Eric Donaldson, but they were not talking about the spirituality of Eric Donaldson, more like culture. And then Benny Spears, they say culture don't even stay at home, culture don't use dresses. Okay. So they used to show me culture, pictures of Harder Than a Rock, 2/7. They used to show culture in a shot with the stay in bush like international help. So those were the pictures my brothers were showing me, that Rastaman was not a street thing, like culture was like. So I began to see Rastafari was more like a spirituality thing. And I realized that affected a lot of my young racists today in Ghana, because they mystified the Rastafari, thinking that the imagination, there was a spirituality, like Rastafari was kind of spiritual, like how Roman churches and everything they tell us. So when they discover His Majesty, they still lost in the helms of physically interpreting His Majesty, about where the presentation He presents for us as the physical flesh of. Because when you go to Bobo, they'll tell you man of right is God in flesh, man of wrong. So this thing, you have it in your mind that anybody who do right is of God. So Permaculture is an old ancient. Anytime they ask me, I have a lot of videos I've done from the Permaculture Institute, many TV stations. What I normally say is, it's an old traditional way of living and life, but it's now be formalized and put to academical recognition, and certificate can be given. That's the only difference. But there's two ways into it. Whilst permaculture, the Europeans are taking our indigenous African way of knowledge, they are also giving us back what they are lost of as what is wrong to them, like fertilizer farming, chemical farming. So it's a two opposite thing. Even if you look around, you realize that there's a section of garden which is not a high forest bush, but you see palm, you see mango, you see pawpaw, you see few things. So normally that is traditional way of Africans' life. But now the same person who have the little garden is having a big acres of corn with fertilizer, big acres of tomato with chemical and spraying and all that. So it's about the mindset that's been drawing from the traditional agriculture to become a Europeanized conventional farming with too much use of chemical. That is what permaculture is withdrawing people again from to go back. So it's just like a Sankofa thing. You were unconsciously living in it. And that was the biggest expression that influenced my youth the first day when he came from the village. He never realized that people were sitting there back talking about, because his grandmother, his mother who gave him the first land, never used fertilizer yet in their whole life of farming.
Exactly.
But they, as young youth, begin to use. So by it wasn't too long for him. So he can remember 8 years from now where there was no fertilizer actively in their community. But now they come down to use fertilizer. And weedicides, insecticide, pesticides. So food sovereignty Ghana came about, I think, 2009 or 10, or between 2010 and 15. Then the government of Ghana brought a bill to parliament, what they call Plant Breeders Bill. We already were having, like, the Ras Tafari Council of Ghana, we're having the Pan-African Network, that the daughter of Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana, Samia Nkrumah, used to have marches. We used to demonstrate against government intervention which don't favor African people. So we were in Ghana when they brought the Plant Breeders Bill as a bill to stop the sustainable usage of traditional seed, plants, and things to breed GMO seed, which they call. So when the Plant Breeders Bill is not in place, they cannot have the mandate to bring in any new seed to Ghana, because the constitution of Ghana have boycott all foreign. That's from the indigenous way of Kwame Nkrumah, how he write the constitution and things to protect black people.
Yes.
But when our people want to bring in the Monsanto, they have to find a way that they amend the bill from parliament. That's what they call Plant Breeders Bill. There was no Plant Breeders Bill in Ghana. You can't breed no plant in Ghana, so automatically it's against any law of nature to breed any plant in Ghana, first of all. So when the GMO was coming, they have to convince the government to bring a bill that is Plant Breeders Bill that allow new genetically modified organisms to come to Ghana. So with that, we have to organize as Pan-Africans to demonstrate against government, take placards in Accra. So every March, we're having a regular date in Ghana, yearly, annually, that used some marches, like while the government was taking to court to explain what GMO was. So they halt the passing of the bill into law. And that has been there until now. They say they're giving some excuse to the people that you have to label the GMO, because our argument was, even if you are trying to bring GMO, which you are forcing the people not to deny it, educate them to understand the consequences of GMO and chemical usage, because already with the Ghana agriculture system, we have what we call hybrid seeds.
Yes.
These hybrid seeds are kind of seed when you maybe a corn. You plant 1 acre of corn, every year you have to go and buy back a seed from them 1 acre, because when you plant back the seed, it will grow without giving you fruits. The corn will not bear. So it's just a developing corn that yours will not bear. So you have to go back and buy it from them every year. So this was a standard of system which I was not satisfied with. It was already organizing people to fight against. They have other Ras Tafari organization, but Bobo is strictly on 12, like on sabbatical order, and they create mostly priesthood, and their movement is back to Africa. So he never even realized how strong Bobo was when he came. He moved out of Jamaica, but when he came here now, he realized that no, Bobo have done a lot. That he began to understand that President Manuel sent delegation to all over Africa, Ethiopia, Nigeria. So what happened in Ghana later, where the camp got the problem, was there was rotation of elders who were sent by Jamaica to Ghana camp. So Prince Jakai was there. Prince Migi was the first when he passed. Prince Jakai took over. Then after Prince Jakai passed, Prince Banik, Prince Giffy, they were setting of a set of Bobos who were sent to Nigeria. Bona, Prince Bona, who was the son of Prince Emmanuel himself, was also here, but he was also sent to Ethiopia. So by how they find hardship and difficulties in all this country. So it was only Ghana that was functioning at that time. But the same Bobo in Ghana were not serious with the, maybe my language might not, but they were not actively with building of the tabernacle or that they were in Accra and all that. So it was the members of the Nigeria congregation of Bobo Shanti who came to speed up the works in Ghana, which was member of Presbyterian, but they never give the leadership to themselves, but they gave it to the Ghana delegation. So it was the confusion from Presbyterian, who was a young, even he wasn't a priest according to what the priest normally say. He was a carpenter that was sent to support the priest. So he was crowned here as a priest in Ghana. So he was fighting the people. Them now he started talking about when Priest Migi passed and then Priest Jakai passed. Now the eldest priest was in the camp was Priest Banik, which Ba was not even living in the camp. Priest Ba was in the camp at that time. So he used to come from Accra with Empress Fomia and all that. So then he came one day and then was having argument with Priest Banik and all that. So he feel like they who were sent to Ghana should have been the people. And he was very young youth at that time too. So he began to bring the confusion and then start to bring the whole camp into chaos in the way that leadership. Now he feel like he's being part of the Ghana delegation, so he should take over the camp. So it was kind of argument, always fighting Priest Banik until he brought in police and immigration now.
Wow.
Yes, when immigration was sent to the Bobo camp, and it was like, that's where I realized when I'm living in like a permaculture, living in the camp, I realized what kind of camp the camp was serving. There were many brothers from Nigeria, Ivory Coast, many African who were not having documents, but they were living comfortably in the camp for so many years. So when that happened, a lot of people have to be sent into custody of police because they were not having update document, and most of the Bobo who came from other parts of Africa were not having document. Okay. Just the visitation of one Bobo young youth, that is what brought down the falling of the camp. So now he controls it in his own way that he feels that that's the way it's supposed to be. It's different region of where you coming from as Ras Tafari youth in Ghana. Because most people in Accra, it's difficult for them to move from Accra and have some. But when there are various type of farm that are like having the good financial structures, most of the youth are willing. And secondly, to what it is most of the youth who don't have support as in a structure of how they can do something on their own. Farming is a thing where you have to start with a conscious mind. So if you don't have the conscious mind of going to farm, you see a farming as a punishment instead of being as a way of life. So as long as you don't see it as a way of life, it will be difficult for you to just go and start to develop a consciousness of being like this. But the thing is, when I met Ras Tafari like Bobo camp, you can't live in a Bobo camp where you are not a farmer. So traditionally, and farming gives you some freedom because nobody can live without food. So me, as I do my researches as a Rasta young youth, and I discover permaculture, that we are doing things in the hands of other people who are making a lot of benefit out of it. So farming shouldn't always be like carry cattle as a hoe and go and attack the farmer. No, you can do farming in various understanding where artists can be a farmer, everybody can play his role in the farming. That is new standard of farming, that when we communicate this level of farming to our young brother, they will understand. Like people don't even really understand what I do, why it's for them. That is why anytime there's a space like this is what I identify with, and so I want them to get closer and get the inside of it, that they don't define us like what they see, but they define us by what they see us doing and know us. And I see that that's been the part we keep from society so long. So they define me, Rasta, you are this and that. But meanwhile, we're doing great stuff to the community. And because I went to the school, even they were talking about his hair, and I say, oh, we have institution bigger, even higher than the institution in the community. Why should we always be fought against? And they say, but your people don't tell you, what do you do? You work for yourself. But we are working as a Roman Catholic is talking as if they are working for the community. But Cassie is doing for the community more than what the Roman, because every Sunday you go to church and contribute. Do you ask them what they use the money for? These are some of the few changes I want to see in Africa. Yeah. A person cannot go to church and contribute money every day without asking the church, what is the money for? And chief and people are not stepping in to save our people's life from, because it's being created from the colonialization of people's mind. Every day you go to church and put your money to the money box, which not that you are overrich, that you want to support, but it's out of your ignorance. So when I see the community behaving in more negative direction, and most of the time I have to spend my resources, we go to Accra, do everything. If not, they are carrying me with bike. Even the first day you carry me, I have to pay for fuel. So you can't spend your own resource on a community development project that have to support a whole community in the future. So this is how the community has been. They don't understand how we black people, we want to bring a lot of intervention. So the Europeans make it look like we are rather enemy to ourselves more than helping ourselves. So we are finding it difficult to organize, to save the problems that belong to we African than to be working for a community that don't even recognize us. Diaspora shouldn't worry, they should come home, because the future of the world is problematic. I work with the United Nations departments and I know how the future problematic of the world is being concerned and problems with the whole global nation. And when that happens, nobody will be there to help us as black people. So before anything we start thinking about where we start from, we have to be heading towards home, and Africa is home, and we are here as African brothers to support the movement, you know. So more space, more room for improvement, and we give thanks for Cassie, because when the space is not created, you can't organize anything, you know. So the space is the first thing. In Africa, you have to buy your space to free yourself from anything. So we give thanks for the works, and we give thanks for the great work from Cassie. And Habisha, not to be forgotten, they are the brain behind all this. So Cassie, respect and big up, and guide and protect, and yes, Lion Voice Network, we're there too. Yeah.
Well, Lion Voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion Voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion Voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion Voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion Voice.
Yeah, Ras Tafari, Emperor Haile Selassie the first. Tell the people about Empress Mene. Well, even if the stars they fall and the moon turn into blood, well, through the coming war we stand tall. I will shower you with my love, and even when the people start war, 'cause they see the city streets them flood. But when the hurricane blow down their wall, I'll be by your side and me nah budge. Think I found the love of a lifetime. I love you every day or the night time. Almighty, I made your light shine, and unto I, your love was a lifeline. Think I found the love of a lifetime. I love you every day or the night time. Almighty, I made your light shine, and unto I, that light was a lifeline. It seems like the world is upside down. I will never hide, I'd rather stand my ground. Lion of Judah blessed with the triple crown. Can't come fool I with no circus clown. Now fear no hurricane or the cyclone. Respect for Mama Earth with that embedded on me bone. That's why I will never leave you alone. Protect you from harm when the alarm sound.
Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of his chosen queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka the Chasmatch Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Pan-African Happy Man. I'm a creative industry attorney, I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist, and right now I am the host of the Lion Voice Vlog. Welcome to the Lion Voice Vlog, and welcome to the Lion Voice Network, where the lions are telling our own story. Today we have a very special guest on the broadcast, a brethren I've known for years. Seen him on the battlefield, one of the frontline soldiers here in Ghana. He's from the Volta region. He has been boots on the ground for so many ones, so much wisdom this brethren carries. We are here at the Kwaiko Ando Sustainability Institute after a monumental series of events, historic events. The brethren was there for all of it. So we're gonna get his vibration. We're gonna talk about the state of agriculture in Ghana. Brethren went to agricultural college. All these things. So who am I talking about? I'm talking about the great Bobo Selassie.
Yes, respect Lion Voice Network. We give thanks,
Yes,
you know,
give
for
thanks.
being here, and all this by you and done with you, and you are the greatest of putting everything together. So we're happy for a great family gathering like this. It's never been too late, it's never before. So Ras Tafari every time, and we're giving thanks for the upfrontness of Ras Tafari, not always the backwardness. We're out of the ghetto now, so institution, habitat, that's a good initiative. So we give thanks for the great work, that we give thanks to see a better future for Africa. Yes, that's all I can say now. Give thanks.
Give thanks, give thanks. We have a tradition here on the Lion Voice Network where we ask our guests to step into our Lion Talk time machine. Take us to the moment of the birth. Where were you born? What was it like, and what was your journey as an indigenous Ghanaian to finding Rastafari?
Yeah, man, I was born in a village called Bando Jibe. Bando is one of the great nations in Volta region. Volta particular is one region within the 16 regions of Ghana. And it's been like very vibrant in most of the development stories in Ghana, and we have good people who have contributed a lot to the development of Ghana. And one thing they know about Volta is wisdom, wise mind and priestlyhoods, and and when it comes to Rastafari in Ghana, I should say proudly that Volta, or we call it Voltarians, are most number of people who have carried locks in Ghana. So we have this advantage of our priestlyhood. And I was born into a Catholic community. My father, my mother were Catholic, but after some time on the line, my father shifted to this, they call it spiritual churches, these newly coming churches. Because those times when we were young, there was no other church than Roman, Anglican, and then Presbyterian, those old charismatic churches. Then now it came to this so-called spiritual, like Assemblies of God, and different new churches begin to spring out. They brought us in the understanding that whatever we were exposed to was the standard of life. So people were not allowed within the Roman Catholic era to create their own churches. So my father was extra happy that when he got somebody who can preach of a new strength for him, that you can build your own church, you can be a member, you can be a pastor. So that was encouragement of my father. So he had to be member of a church, Sunday charismatic something church. Then he was a member until he was working with Ghana government at the time where there was a change of government, like a coup was made in Ghana. And one president have to overthrow the other. That was the era of Rawlings. So all of those who were working in some section of government department were like, they have to be running for their lives. So my father have to move from where we were in Bando to a different side of the region they call Nkwanta. That was about to the north side of Volta. Nkwanta is more far away to the north. So that's where my father was. But he went there and discovered a Sabbath church. So but I was left with my mother as a Roman Catholic. And actually till now, my mother is the only female catechist in the Bando district. Catechist positions are kind of, if the Roman father is not there, she's the one who officiates the church, because villages are not big enough to have a whole priest station there. So somebody have to be officiating the Sunday worship or Sunday masses, they call it. Then a day will come in the month, a Roman priest will come from the bigger community to come and do the church like once a month. So as long as the Roman priest is not there, my mother till now, she's the one who controls every Sunday church in my community. So I'm born from a Roman Catholic, and then at the age of between 9 and 10, I was sent from my mother's village to come to Pando, which is the bigger town, and to stay with my aunties to have higher education. So I went to my primary education, my second cycle, and then went further to Pando Technical Institute. So I attended Roman Catholic school called St. Michael's, and I attended boys primary school, which is also boys school. St. Michael was also a boys school, all by Roman Catholic, before I went to the Pando Technical Institute. The Technical Institute was more of a boys school because more courses there are not for girls. But I was privileged to work in a department that I attended a new department they call New Block, which is the business department of the Technical Institute. So I did business administration and accounting, and was my priority. That was my early days. But when I was going to school, one thing I never too like was about sectioning of classroom, like the master talk and conditioning of people, and you don't have freedom to move. So every day I was running from the kind of classroom thing. But when I visited my father one of the time, then it came to a time for me to come and write my examination. So I was having a huge afro, we used to call it afro hair. But when I was in the early days between my second cycle institution and from my lower cycle, I remembered going locks between the two sections before my day came to going to school, higher school, and it wasn't locks, but I had my head twisted, and it was big fight for my family. And I realized that when I went to the second institution, or second cycle, there was one Rasta youth in my community, but I realized he always used to show me different races that he learned is originating from, but they always see him as, when they say ghetto, like streetism. And my family was more like Roma Kali kind of people, and they are more like Babylonian cultured and Christianized minded kind of people.
Like middle class.
Yes, so you are not to go to, even me, I wasn't mixed with the ghetto people, like you know, my aunties were strict, and luckily enough, behind my house was a very big swampy area, and most of the time we can be there in hot afternoon and we say police raid. Ghetto people are running, and my house will prevent the people from passing to our house because raiding, anybody who is running away not supposed to make it through our house area. So I see how strict my house was, and my house was a place that if you don't have any tangible reason, don't come and ask of anybody in the house, because they will face you with questioning, and you don't even, so mostly my house is not entertaining of friends. Like you come, my parents, like my aunties were so hot that even my uncle, they were former military personnel, and even if you iron and you create a new line, they ironing, it's just a big slap. So I grew in there, and my grandmother was when in the Roman church they used to give position to people like the eldest woman in the church, and then the eldest man in the church. So my grandmother was the eldest woman in the church holding that position. So imagine strictly churchical. So everything was strict. But one thing I was always wondering that, so I was member of the Sunday school group of young youth from the Roman Catholic, and I learned what they call catechism. You have to learn the first communion, they will give you from their sacrament. Then you go to, then you, like that one, they will tell you about 7 pillars of Spirit of God. So then you become a higher member of the Roman, then you start to take communion. You go to, so every Sunday you have to take communion and all that. So I went to all that, but there was a change in my life, because when I went to my father, that day he forced me to go to Sabbath church, and I was supposed to leave back for school on Friday, but I happened to not be able to move. So I remembered my afro was so high that I have to use soap that day to wash my hair to be able to let a comb go through, because I have to go to with my father, and my father was the pastor of the Sabbath church. So there was no way I can go my hair covered or something, which is against. So I had a huge afro that day, which I can remember. And I was telling my father about this is the other part of, we all begin with the Roman, but we realized there's something wrong with Roman. So I'm also discovering His Majesty. So actually my father never stood against my Ras Tafari belief, because he was also being fought against when he moved from the Roman Catholic. But one thing about him was he used to be like Pan-African. He knows about Kwame Nkrumah. So me and him used to talk about His Majesty, Africa unity. But the same time there was a big problem between him and my mother, because when he left, we were left on my mother. So my mother, and he has different philosophy for my mother. Like sometimes there will be a big funeral, they can send somebody to say from the funeral die, the person, from the person pass, the funeral will not die. So he wasting his time for funeral, moving from his community going to just for funeral. My father don't entertain those funeral spirits. So he will send money afterwards to support by him, like emergency. Africa have a very funny situation that when somebody passes, where you get all the attention, the emergency, people will travel. But my father is a different opposition to that. So it was a big problem between him and my mother. So that was the kind of what I understand. So my mother used to grow us as a Roman youth, and then my father wanted us to move from the Roman square of life. But I used to go and visit my father any time that I finished my school, and I was the fourth born of I'm the fourth born of my father and my mother. So we're 4, and I'm the last. So I have one sister. I have 2 sisters and 1 brother. My brother was first, 2 sisters came between me, and I'm the last. So my father had a kind of attention, but out of the 4, I was the only person who went and looked for him when he was not in my community. Others grow and take the idea of my mother and always talk bad about my father. But when I was growing, I remembered I have to, they used to mount yam. Like if you want to make a yam farm, you have to build up a yam mound. I remember building 100 of that for one woman to get 1 CD. At that time was 10,000 Ghana, which was the transport to take to me to where my father was. So I took that money from the woman, traced my father, and my father was happy that none of my, out of the 4, nobody came to look for him. But so he began to interact with my school ideas, that he tell me to encourage me to go to the second cycle. So I could remember every holiday I used to go to him and take money for my education support. But when I was out of the second cycle, on my last paper I was writing law. And that time we were supposed to dress in coat, and my hair was already bushy and I was highly. So I have to remember that picture with coat, and I never fit in the coat business too much. So that day I began to say, if this is the way this report, the accounting thing is going to be, then I began to get a little bit of discouraged. So when I went out of there, but when I was in my 3rd year, there was already the presence of Bobo Jadofos in our community. And then Jawaldam.
Yes.
And then there was one, but the brother who brought there was a Muslim brother who brought the presence of the Ras Tafari into the community. And they had a project from the France government that they were doing rice. But there was another brother called Brother Levi. Levi also came from America. But Levi was more revolutionary than the Bobo. He is a man where he don't take back tack and all those very giant, but he never even appreciated Bobo too. I could remember he and Jadofos used to argue a lot about Prince Emmanuel being part of Trinity, and then he put Bob Marley in the Trinity of 12. And then Bobo tell him, say, Bob Marley is a musician who just even do public music, not much into spirituality, like how a priest as Prince Emmanuel will be there, not be part of holiness, but they want to put a music man who can be public out there. So when the man heard that, he was shocked. So, but I was working more with Jalivi before we met Jadofos. So, by Jadofos, that time there was no power, like tractor was not common, so they were using power tiller on Jawaldam, and some group of Rasis came to town, and Jadofos' van was the van they used to carry labels every day to the farm. But one thing he used to say, so I went to the house one day with Jalivi to get a power tiller. Then I saw that he was sitting in a hammock and doing the bamboo, cutting the bead. I said, no, I see the thing so beautiful. So I told him, no, Elder, I want to come and learn this. Then he told me the procedure. But one thing he said, nobody ever in this town as a young youth ever tell me that I want to learn this trade. So he was get lost in mind that why do I see the thing and get lost that I want to learn it. So he gave me a day. I went there 2 times and then I didn't meet him because he used to travel to Accra and back and front. Then one time I met him on the street, he dashed me money. Another time and I said, no, it's not the money I want. I want to know the craft. So he invited me to the house and I was learning the craft. But we were in the one day, the same Levi who was always arguing with the Bobo, one day I was on his field in the farm with him, rice farm, with other youth. And then he told me, he used to call me Constant because that time because my mother named me after Constant time. Constant was my name, my Christian name he knows for me. So he said, Constant, I have a holiday to go to it's a 23rd July and I have to go to Tafo. It's a camp for the Ras Tafari. I said, no, I never heard about the Rastaman having camp in Ghana. So that was a weekend around Friday. So I went home and told my aunties that I want to go and check my mother in the village, which gave me the space to spend 3 days with him till we came back Sunday. But on that occasion, something very seriously happened, which I never understood as a youth because I was still going to school. Jalivi went to the camp until Sunday. When we were about to leave, I saw tears in his face. But we went out of the gate and he called me, said, Constant, if this don't happen today, I don't know what. So we returned back to the camp. And that time there was the presence of Prince Jakai. But camp was very serious at that time. So, and
this was Bobo Camp.
Bobo Camp in Tafo. And Bobo Camp, when you are, there's a royal gate, well organized. They even have gate lock after 6. So if you have to go in there, every Sabbath, everything is well controlled. So he came there, even no matter how long your locks are, when you enter to the Bobo camp, you have to remove your turban once you are not crowned from the camp as a Bobo, because they don't go there with what they call false crown. So the royal guide will guide you through all kind of process. So when we're going out of the camp, you have to pray. So we hold our reverence going out. Then he told me, no, this cannot happen. He don't know when. No, he had a turban so in his bag. But when he went to the Bobo camp begging for the turban, they told, because he been a strong 12 tribe and so they told him he have to come and stay number of months, which he couldn't do that for that because we were already having a big rice farm for him. So he came there to spend the weekend, and then so he have to have an argument with Prince Jakai, talking about Prince Dennis Brown, his father being with Prince Emmanuel every time, but the Bobo were not convinced.
Yes.
So by that day I realized that when we came out of the camp, went back, he was having the turban before we went and he felt more comfortable. So we came back and then he told me that Jadofos, that he had a vision or a dream and feel like somebody was in a white robe come visit him like Prince Emmanuel. So that was how he converted from the 12th tribe or his belief to become a Bobo, and I was with him. So I see that elder man going to, I begin to get more anxious about what's so special about this Bobo Shanti. Then he was telling me about they have other Ras Tafari organization, but Bobo is strictly on 12, like on sabbatical order, and they create mostly priesthood and their movement is back to Africa. So he never even realized how strong Bobo was when he moved out of Jamaica. But when he came here now, he realized that no, Bobo have done a lot, that he began to understand that President Emmanuel sent delegation to all over Africa, Ethiopia, Nigeria. So what happened in Ghana later, where the camp got the problem was there was routine of elders who were sent by Jamaica to Ghana camp. So Priest Jakai was there. Priest Migi was the first when he passed. Priest Jakai took over. Then after Priest Jakai passed, Priest Banik, Priest Giffy, they were setting of a set of Bobos who were sent to Nigeria. Bona, Priest Bona, who was the son of Priest Emmanuel himself, was also here, but he was also sent to Ethiopia. So by how they find hardship and difficulties in all this country. So it was only Ghana that was functioning at that time, but the same Bobo in Ghana were not serious with the, maybe my language might not, but they were not actively with building of the tabernacle or that they were in Accra and all that. So it was the members of the Nigeria congregation of Bobo Shanti who came to speed up the works in Ghana, which was member of Priest Banik, but they never give the leadership to themselves, but they gave it to the Ghana delegation. So it was the confusion from Priest Ba, who was a young, even he wasn't a priest according to what the priest normally say. He was a carpenter that was sent to support the priest. So he was crowned here as a priest in Ghana. So he was fighting the people. Them now he started to talk about when Priest Banik, Priest Migi passed, and then Priest Jakai passed. Now the eldest priest was in the camp was Priest Banik, which Ba was not even living in the camp. Priest Ba was in the camp at that time. So he used to come from Accra with Empress Fomia and all that. So then he came one day and then was having argument with Priest Banik and all that. So he feel like they who were sent to Ghana should have been the people. And he was very young youth at that time too. So he began to bring the confusion and then start to bring the whole camp into chaos in a way that leadership now he feel like he's being part of the Ghana delegation, so he should take over the camp. So it was kind of argument, always fighting Priest Banik until he brought in police and immigration now.
Wow.
Yes, when immigration was sent to the Bobo camp, and it was like, that's where I realized when I'm living in like a permaculture, living in the camp, I realized what kind of camp the camp was serving. There were many brothers from Nigeria, Ivory Coast, many African who were not having documents, but they were living comfortably in the camp for so many years. So when that happened, a lot of people have to be sent into custody of police because they were not having update document, and most of the Bobo who came from other parts of Africa were not having document. Just the visitation of one Bobo young youth, that is what brought down the falling of the camp. So now he controlled it in his own way that he feel that that's the way it's supposed to be. Then he went and make like he combined with the elders of the community who gave the land to Bobo Shanti. So they take him now as a rightful understanding because first of all, none of the people, even when they were going to court, they were fighting this issue till they went to court because the congregation were not on his side. Yeah. But he was saying he's supposed to be the rightful, and he was really violatedly give everything to government. So now Bobo have to fight the thing with government. So the day they were going to court, I even told them, it's still like we are ignorant because this government constitution doesn't have nothing to do with black supremacy, Bobo Shanti. So they're not even going to know what we're going to talk about. We're only going to say our story to the court, and the court is not even going to know what will be the solution. So they came back. So there was no other freedom. So the camp has been like controlled by the Priest Bar and is there. But from there, it breaks down the congregation of the Bobo. So Priest Bani continued with one priest in. So we had a police case, and other Bobos came in and helped. He was freed.
So then is the camp still active today?
Camp still active, but not active in a way of members. But Ba still controlled the camp, and he decided who should come to the camp with his own doctrine of how he wanted to be done. So Bobo come back. Actually, I could remember in Ghana those days, every celebration, everywhere you were in Ghana, whether Bobo or not, there were people moving like from every angle going to Tafo as the main Bobo camp. So I could remember Jadofos, the day we went with Jaliva, Jadofos had a green van. That is the van he normally used. So he will pick us from Volta, come to Somanya, like Gabriel was living with Zebi, like his son. So I began to get closer to him. So we used to move with a group of people like from Volta, pick up some people on the road and Somanya. So before we reach Kofodia, the van will be totally full with grasses. And I was a young boy led and going through it. So all these things marvels my way of understanding. And when I was in Bobo camp the first Sabbath morning, I was lost because I was in a different planet of life. Because being in a Christian world, I never seen nobody of priest in white robe. Like the whole camp was white. Even if you are not in robe, you have to wear something white. So I was like, and everything was like dew was falling. Like I was like, feel like. And they have one kitchen, universal kitchen, when after 12 morning service, they have to go and have lunch, and everything was ordered, announcement was made, office was there, products were made, like badges, beads, buttons, and so like the whole was like an industrialized camp. And apart from like the path that you walk, like how Cassie is well designed.
Yes.
The rest of the place is just farm products. So when I'm seeing the model of these camps and institutions, and I went to permaculture, I told my director that this is the first time I'm seeing somewhere being created by a bald-headed man who was not a Rasta man. Because I remember when I was in Bobo camp, apart from the lanes, everywhere was farm. Pineapple, cassava, mango, everything was farm.
Okay.
All over the camp, except the walking lanes and the tabernacle, if you have a space, green grasses planted, and every morning they hold 7 psalms of reverence. And so it was very orderly, and not only the church and the Sabbath, but there were other institutional discipline that you live as a Bobo. Even before you move out, you have to wash your face, you have to clean your mouth. So like you smoke and you leave your, there was some kind of standard of control that even when I was living with my elder man, Jadofos, you can't wake up in his house without reading your 7 psalms in the morning. So I carried that forward. So any other youth that came to this generation of people, you can't wake up and just move to anything. So like we had discipline of sections of youth in Ghana until when those camps were break down. Now everybody began to grow on the street. So from our time to the young people who follow us, they grow in the dance hall in mostly Akuma village in Accra in Art Center. So they didn't have the kind of like communal eldership of graduation. That's kind of what like is a problem now in Rastafari that we are going through, because for my time we had the whole camp, and after when the camp went down, Prince Banik was still staying in Manfi. There was another elder they call Willie or something. There was one priest that had a house in Manfi. So Mamfi. So we used to go to Sabbath when Prince Banik was still there. And until I think the household had an issue with him, then he came to Jabi. So we were still keeping Sabbath and celebrations in Jabi's place. Then until Prince Dian had with Jadofos, they came together, do some projects and program. They bought some piece of land around Ayikuma. Then they set up a whole Bobo camp, and then they were attending as Bobos. That was where Prince Banik finally settled. So the Ayikuma was the camp we were all attending. The Miene where Prince Banik and the Bobo were attending, but it came to a time where Ayikuma wasn't getting active, because most of the time I went there mostly it's like Prince Banik or 1 or 2 bridges you find. So, and already in Volta, we started developing like from before even going to the Bobo camp itself, where when the elder Bobo before I finished my second cycle, then my mother and my brother, everybody, they were already prepared, because they realized that I was choosing some path and my things were not moving the way they wanted. So they already prepared a school for me to continue with from Whole Polytechnic. Okay. So my sister took me to the Whole Polytechnic, but when I see the Rastafari, I meet Bobo, I begin to do bamboo curtains. I begin to do the curtains and the beadwork, and I begin to have money as young as I was. So I concentrated on every morning, I'll wake up, go to the jungle, look for the branches of the bamboo, cut it shapely nicely, and then send it to him and learn the crafting. So one day I remembered my brother passed behind me and wanted to slap me. Then I dodged him or something. Say, upon all your knowledge, do you think this bamboo can help you to do something? You are even if you relent, you are helping the Rastaman to get firewood and things. So actually they were ignorant about this, but there was a big thing happening in my house one time, where then when the electricity company came to cut off our power, and that day I was having 300 Ghana in my pocket. I don't even know the value of it, because I did a lot of curtain work now. The other first just showed me 1 or 2 things, and then I did a whole about 10 to 15 curtain in his house before even going to sell. So from there, I never know what is broke. Like I never get broke as a Rasta man. So every day, though I don't have my locks with the Rasta man, I begin to do craft, and I begin to have a lot of fun with myself. And so that gave me the confidence to stand as a Rasta young. So I begin to go to him more for craft. Then he have to move from Pando to Hohwe. So when he moved to Hohwe, I begin to carry the Sabbath order, Bobo Shanti. So we begin to remember the 23rd July, 2nd November, coronation, 17th August, all those black, like Bobos have those days, like Marcos Gave. So we used to keep that. Then it was that day that one old lady, so but I get used to an elder man also called Shabaka. So after my second cycle, I didn't proceed with my family, so I went to stay with Jadofos in Hohwe. But Shabaka also came to Jadofos, then they were like a team, and Shabaka rented a place in Pando. So we were like more or less in a Rasta community, like yard where nobody can stress you or fight you. So then they were doing works and we were farming and all that. So until when Jadofos left for Hohwe now, I have to carry on the works in Pando. So we begin to organize, like we go to Rastafari organizations, and we're following any other Rastafari organization structures in other part of the country. Because the Bobo camp wasn't there, but we still have other different organizational gatherings. Like sometimes pepper. There was a time even in Ghana with Aswad them and some Bobo who were playing bingi from house to house when there was no connected bingi.
Really?
Yes, we did that. Even one bridge in mountain was called bingi Tafari. Tafari was here in Ghana with Van. Jabi, we used to work with like about 4.
That's the bridge who passed.
I don't know about his
From
father.
Barbados?
Yeah, I think it was from Barbados. There were a lot of bridges in Ghana came from different parts of the world who were very strong in Ghana. So we're playing bingi from house to house. I can remember one Sabbath we were from Manfi, went to Pepper, and we played bingi in 3 different houses one Sabbath. That's how we're moving. So the bingi was moving from house to house and all that up to some time in Ghana. And then that also came down. But it was mostly when Ras Tafari rise now through the dance hall and everybody was in Akuma village without going to the elder way of life, and so everybody now begin to be like music, you know. But now we begin to find the failure of what, not even failure actually, but the strength that we had from the beginning. The young generation who come after lost everything, because apart from music and the music there was more violence, because they can do any thing in the dance hall, they can use any word. That was one thing I left from Bobo. They said the difference between the dance hall and the priesthood is that you can't go to dance and anyhow and behave yourself anyhow at the same time come to the priesthood. So if you want to be a priest, then you have to know that you are going to free yourself from many things. But most of the priesthood misunderstood most of the concept of Priest Emmanuel as I grow to understand, because they were too much holding to the thing like no flexibility, no changing. And when I realized that many too didn't have exposure to like the formal set of education, so the camp was the only source of leadership and strength and respect they see. Even when I grew as Rastaman, I realized that most of the brethren came to Rastafari before get the acceptance and the respect they need to have from their family. So sometimes these things overwhelm them, that they got lost and they are like poisoned, like or overpowered, and they lost what they have to do as responsibility. So to me, that's what I learned from it as a young youth. As I grow out from there and move out to other, so we were bringing every Rastafari kind of black holiday, we're bringing different group of people to Pando to come and do something, educate them.
What year did I fully embrace Rastafari?
Rastafari, I should say, but 2001, 2001 that way. I finished my education about 99, 2000. So from 2000, I was already growing my locks, but very small. But it was 2001 when Jadofo saw me and said, what am I doing? Am I growing locks? And he said, the tribulation I have to go through before get my 1 inch of locks. That was about 2001 or that way. So he left Pando and we carried the work forward. So about from 2000, then 2003, 2002, he was already having a big farm. So within 2003, I have to meet one woman that came with him to Ghana, because he came with about 4 or 5 of his sons. So there was a woman from France called Pascal that I have to go to her, and then we helped her when she was in Ghana. She stayed in Ghana for about a month or 2. We built a house in Buzia Beach. By that time I was with the Rastaman already. Bobo, we used to go to camp and regularly, and until camp wasn't fashioning. So we still keep our Sabbath and doing our thing in Volta. Until now we came to, then I rented a yard in Pando, which harbored most of the Rasis. Young brothers were living with me, so my house was full of Rasis every day. That was the only freedom house for us to do any program. So we were planning every holiday. So that was the time we brought Full Sovereignty Ghana. I think it was 2012, 2000 and something, 2012, 2004, 13 that way. So we brought Full Sovereignty Ghana to come and also do demonstration and show videos and documentation about negative effect of GMO. And that day was so lucky that we had the congregation of Muslim community who were going to the Chief Palace. So we did our march with the placards and playing bingi in a tricycle. One brother had a tricycle from Hohwe. So we moved from the Pando Rastafari entity to Volta, because Volta Bridges began to hear about what we're doing in Pando. So now they join us as a Volta Regional House of Rastafari, not like Pando. And also what we joined, one Bridge was in Ho also coming. So because I'm like, well, if we want to do the holiday planning in Pando, we have to involve other bridges from other parts of Volta. So that's how we begin to be big. So that day, we had bridges from Ho, bridges from Hohwe, different places that were holding, even Empress and Bokla, somewhere they were holding placards. We marched through the street of Pando to the Municipal Chief Executive Office. She delivered a speech that day. I think some organization they call BTB, they have the video documentation of everything. But I was surprised when Brother Edwin showed on his presentation, showed the pictures of what we had with the paramount chief and people of Kpando that day. So after we marched through the street, we were entering the palace where the people were finishing their meeting, about 400 to number of thousands of people. They were about to leave. Then the chief said, halt. This GMO is not a normal thing for us to just go. And that day was Friday. The Muslims have to go to prayer. And there was verse, but the chief hold them down to were able to break down everything about food sovereignty, GMO, Monsanto, and all that. Then the chief promised 400 acres to food sovereignty Ghana. So when they went back to Accra, there was a call by international organization that they want to have the global eco-village network in Ghana. So they were bringing organizations of similar mind, ecological, seed preserve organizations, and non-chemical using organizations. So they found that food sovereignty Ghana was in a good position to also give members. Okay. So the secretary called me and said, Bobo, there is a call for us to, and your chief already said they want to give us 400, so we prefer like you be the right person to go and represent us. So he gave me the links to do the registration. So I did the registration with the people, and then the people, when I called the people, that was very turning point in my life, because when I called the man already told me there was the vacancy was finished. There was no place for food sovereignty. Then when I called the man Sunday morning, I realized there was some gospel music under his background. So I said, no, this must be a funny Christian brother. So I told him, and that time too, Baba Aswad, we had the similar support from the Ras Tafari Council of Ghana to go to University of Legon. So there was one doctor they call Emotion. He came and told the Ras Tafari Council that there's opportunity for racist farmers to go and have some part of the education network in University of Legon. So we had that, like elders from Kpando were moving down time, going to Accra, doing with the document about 3 months. We went to the Legon institution for like application and admission to the school to train. Then they brought a whole list of paper that we should go to, like entrance exam, and so it was like people who have not been to class for so many years as Rastaman were now forced into some system. So the Legon never worked. So I had that experience less than a week before this call for food sovereignty Ghana was happening. So I remind them that no, we are not interested in your, that's what the answer I gave them. I said, we are not interested in your programs, We have qualified as an organization that is promoting something sustainable. And if you are trying to prevent that, then what kind of people are you going to use for the thing? So the man tell me, if you can be there in that Sunday, and I said, that's no problem. So from talking to the man, I began to prepare to head towards Kumasi. And I was living in a house with one Ras in Accra. And I told him, say, when I move, you are moving with me. The man never convinced, but I move him with me. And they never disallow any one of us. But no, it was a very gimmick program, because we had 1 month of training, or 1.5 months, 6 weeks. At the end of the last 2 weeks, they were still admitting people because they controlled the program, but they were only preventing racists from entering the program. So when I break that barrier, I was the first to appear at the training center before any other person. So Monday we have to begin registration. I did my registration with the president. I told them if I'm sleeping on 1 mat, we are sleeping on the same mat. Whatever the program is giving me, I'll make sure you are in it. So we go, and the people never even fought him or move him out, because there was more space for people. It's only I and I, they were not wanting. So that program we had in Kumasi, there is a agric college they call College of Tropical Agriculture, Kumasi College of Tropical Agriculture. That was where the Eco Village Network, they won the funding to do the training of the Eco Village Network people. So I was there for a whole 1 month, and because I know I was a Rasta man, I always tried to guide myself against certain things. And there were a team of people that who were also smoking, but we make sure we guide against us, because we really realized that there was a big problem between us and the organizers of the program, because it's like Europeanized, they are too much Europeanized mind. And the whole of the congregation were just Christian-minded people. Yes, so even it's difficult for me to Rastamans penetrate. But I had about 3, 4, 5 brothers who came also from like smoking background, and we have to find a way of making sure every late in the night, around 12 midnight, we have to wake up and make sure we smoke before following morning we begin class with them and all that. So that was my experience. Then at the end of the training, we had a conference for all eco-village networks in Africa. Then Cameroon, Senegal, all the people from the world, the president of the global network came. So there was an election for what they call Next Gen Ghana. Next Gen is the youth network of the global eco-village network, and they had the global network Africa. So we're supposed to have the youth one that was supposed to be coordinating with the youth program. So they, not knowing the school had people that they have trained already for this program. But in the night, lastly before the election, some brethren came to me and said, Bobo, you can't be here, you have the project, you have the program, you have everything. Don't let nobody take our energy or effort in vain. So I get up from my bed and I also went and register to compete. Because we had Ras Tafari. Okay, when we were ending the training, they say everybody should invite who will be their organization members that will come and support them. So I invited the Ras Tafari Council of Ghana, President Kirks, and some other people were there to support me. And then Food Sovereignty Ghana, Kofi Asante, or not Kofi Asante. Yeah, there was one brother that was.
Kofi Asante was supposed to trot forward, but he didn't.
He was. That's why we replaced Jasan, because we were looking for strong soldiers that can contribute to it. So when he told finally of, because he have his son with him and the son is also schooling, and he's in far away, you have to come to Kumasi, come to Accra before coming here. Yeah, but initially he did want to.
Which is understandable. Big up, Virgin. What drew the eye to agriculture?
Come again?
What drew the eye, or maybe
to agriculture? Yeah. When I met the Ras Tafari, they were talking. Okay, actually, in my background, when I was young, I used to go with my grandfather to farm, because everybody have to leave for school. I should be the only person who take him to farm. And those days, what I learned was everybody in the community have a garden. So even if you have maybe a community, you are settling somewhere, there's somebody from the house who have a piece of land who is thinking of migrating from the house, building a place. So every day there was outskirts of town that the border of the town always have demarcation of pieces of land, fence or not fence, people having their small farm. So we grew in a community like that. So my grandfather's farm, he had a garden before have a main farm that you have to walk like maybe 30 minutes or hour to the farm. That is how the community used to. And I grew to be young in a way that I remembered people had their banana farms like that. Sometimes when farms have been abandoned closer to the community, we used to, when the bananas are growing, as young, we used to go and use cutlasses to cut them so that they can ripe earlier than the owner's time. So when we were young, like we're bad, and especially we used to target, like when somebody hangs some spiritual something like on orange, that is where I have some tool, that's where they will target. They said you just don't work. From my young days, they were giving me some mindset until I left that community now to the bigger town. But the farming experience never come out of my mind. So when I moved out of my education, I discovered Ras Tafari. They were talking about self-sufficient, self-sustainability, and then also like self-reliance. Everything was about self. Marcus Garvey, they were talking. That's the first time I heard of Marcus Garvey. So I realized that no. And when I was with my church already, with the Roman people, I was already having a problem. Because I used to realize that I was a mass boy in a Roman Catholic. I grew to be a mass boy, but I realized after the altar, it's different in altogether. And one time I had some experience in the church that we call something sacramental, like sacrament. They used to celebrate, big celebrate. They would come to like maybe this town, do different buildings of like palm branches. Then they carry some spirit. They say it's for Roman spirit. Then the Roman father will carry. They'll be praying, moving from junction to junction for the whole town. But I remember that they over-contributed money. But some of the mass boy already, it was a program for them that when they come to the church, they have some knickers under their the rope that we used to use. So every time they were pumping, like most of the money was going to their pocket. Because when you move from the Roman is a very funny setup. They have a place where when you are watching the Roman priest like this, they have one room here, they have one room here. One of the rooms is where they count the money. Yeah. One of the side is when they want to do some, I don't know, normally they go there. So the people, you have to carry the money container from this walk between the priest, behind the priest, and then go and pour it on the table before they will call members of the church congregation to go and count the money and come and mention how much. So between that, people were putting a lot of the money because what realized the church money was a church money. Nobody know the account the congregation have contributed until they count it and come and make an announcement that you have this amount of the money. So the mass boy realized that what they were doing is every time they will pick most of the big monies in the selection, then they will put it always in their pocket, and they have other dresses under their dress. So I realized that there was no seriousness in it. So I began to look outside the Roman until there was one church they call Royal Faith. So when I moved from my father, I used to come back to Kwando and go to normal regular Sunday church until I discovered the Royal Faith, thinking that they would be better than the Roman. But I went there once, I realized that they were joking because they criticize Roman, they do everything, but they observe all the Roman laws. Christmas, Easter, everything, but they say it's Roma Papacy, Roma. So this opened my mind so much. Then that was the first place I heard Ethiopia in the Bible. So when I heard Ethiopia in the Bible, I began to look for some more black things. So my eagerness to move out of the Roman Catholicism and church culture now. So I stayed for a number of months or years without going to church. Until one brethren came to me and told me about Sabbath. And that brother who told me about Sabbath was a man that I forced him to be a Rasta man, because when I go wild, many people begin to get shocked because they know I was a very brilliant student in school. So everybody began to ask me questions. And there was my uncle who came from Accra. He said something that upset me so much that he said there was one young youth who was wearing some cap in his work side. He asked what was the boy doing, and they say he want to grow locks. And he said the boy should go and remove the cap, go to barber shop the same minute, otherwise the man will lose the job. So when they say this is a drink and happy, I feel bad about how can somebody lose job being a young youth. So me, I was feeling badly different, but they were doing this happiness and drink, and So we were two who was visiting Duffos and Levi. So that uncle came out and said, they saw one of our brothers, they call him Gave. So they said, what was Gave doing? Gave come and he chose the name Gave as well, because we begin to know about Marcus Gave. And there was my brother who was our very influencer somebody, because he used to play culture when he want to learn. He used to stay in Accra. He was a polytechnic student. But when he come back to holidays, he played culture throughout, dawn time, late night, every time he was playing culture. And then there was a younger brother in the house who used to talk about culture, that they don't stay at home, they are spiritual people. So they begin to let me know the mystification of Rastafari when they were not racists. My older young brothers who were bald, they begin to say, when they talk, they say Benny Spears. Even it's hard you hear reggae. Reggae was on cassette. So when people were migrating from Nigeria, they brought a lot of tape with 4 batteries and cassette, and you were hearing about more of Eric Donaldson, but they were not talking about the spirituality of Eric Donaldson, more like culture. And then Benny Spears, they say culture don't even stay at home, culture don't use dresses. Okay. So they used to show me culture, pictures of Harder Than a Rock, 2/7. They used to show culture in a shot with the stay in bush like international help. So those were the pictures my brothers were showing me, that Rastaman was not a street thing, like culture was like. So I began to see Rastafari was more like a spirituality thing. And I realized that affected a lot of my young racists today in Ghana, because they mystified the Rastafari, thinking that the imagination there was a spirituality, like Rastafari was kind of spiritual, like how Roman churches and everything they tell us. So when they discover His Majesty, they still lost in the helms of physically interpreting His Majesty about where the presentation He presents for us as the physical flesh of. Because when you go to Bobo, they'll tell you man of right is God in flesh, man of wrong. So this thing you have it in your mind, that anybody who do right is of God. So this my manifestation I take to Rastafari, I never find it difficult for me to understand His Majesty as God and King, because I listen to Roman, what makes the people there to crown somebody a saint have not come near to the achievement of His Majesty. So he to be in the holy reverence, a charismatic way of life, and he was crowned by the Abuna of Ethiopia. So I began to read more about Rastafari, and the first time I heard about Ethiopia in the Bible, I was lost. How can Ethiopia be in the Bible? So I begin to get more, and I come here about Nazareth vibe. So Levi, when I was with him, now he was opening every chapter of the Bible, who was telling me about Rastafari. Then my family was saying the man was a juju man, because the man used to have a leather crown, and they say it's a juju man and all that. But every time the man opened Bible, so my family was pushing me far from him, where I was getting closer to the man, because his preaching wasn't closer even to my family. And he was giving more relate to blackness, which I never had that. And he was showing me how empowered black people should be. One time I was in his house, and he was hearing a drumming, and he was asking me what was the issue, and I said, there was an apprenticeship from somebody being a seamstress. I said, no, almost in America or where I come from, everybody can sew, at least can use machine, so you don't have to have a special attention for learning how to sew or learning how to cut your material. So these things give me a lot of empowerment that, black, we need to do more. And my family was always lost in the capacity of how black people have to live, because they were Romans and we were behaving under limitation. That's how I see every time when the elder man talked to me. I realized that I was under limitation of my mind, my freedom, my capacity as human. I feel I've been limited. So many times the Rasta man talked to me, I feel higher, and I realized that I can grow bigger. So those were the influential spirit I came with. So I could remember the first year of my second cycle, my parents couldn't even pay for me to go to school, because they told me they feel like they were wasting their resources because of how hard I was coming with Rastafari. And there were many youth who used to ask me questions. So even sometimes they had a radio station in one Pando Technical Institute. Some young youth created something that you can hear more than in one department. So they take it like Pantech Radio. I used to go there when they were doing sports, and people because I used to gather a whole group of people, used to argue them, tell them about something. Then they used to argue me, so I used to go on radio, used to tell them about more everything about what I know about blackness, and God, those things were too new to me.
Yes.
And I never know they were so broad the freedom in us black man can live. So to me, my Ras Tafari being a young youth, this is what, and I didn't go there without any response. Jado first showed me craft. So I was already having money already as well to back me up, like economical backup. So though my family was fighting me, but they couldn't influence my turning back because I had the financial freedom, which was my biggest support. So anytime they were convincing me of not being a Rasta man, they can't influence. And so one day, the brother from Accra, we were two in the house who was following the Rastafari ideology. One was having a young locks, I was having two. They took him to the barbering shop with the car, Pajero, and trim up his head and bring him back, give him some money. But me, I left the house for 3 days. Then when my uncle also returned from South Africa as a teacher in the university, then he used to play a lot of reggae music. So they give him money. That was 5,000, that was blue, that was a big money, the biggest note that time for him to let me go and baba then before they returned. So they left on Friday, they will return on Sunday. So on the Saturday night, he was drinking on one of the drinking spots. He saw me passing, he called me. And through me and him conversation, I told him, you discovered Roman Catholic, but now people are moving out of Roman Catholic. Everybody now realize that maybe Assemblies of God, as God of Witness, this is, so I also see Rastafari, so it's not, they call something like rough life or like rebellious. So it's not a rebellious attitude, but this is what me, I also feel like my spirituality. The man gave me the money that you can convince me. So the money to go and baba my head, he gave it to me, start calling me German from that day. Because he came from South Africa, so his mind was a bit higher than the Ghanaian. So when he began to, so he always used to question me daily, and I used to tell him about my influence, and he began to realize that I was more talking of senseness, like I wasn't talking of senseless and like nonsense to him. I was always speaking of something profitable and something mindful, and so we become historians. I used to talk to him daily, and so though I have a lot of persecution from my aunties, my advantage was I wasn't staying with my mother and my father at that time, so I have the privilege to explain to my uncle how I feel, how I think, and though the family was fighting me, he gave me the go-ahead to feel free within my Rastafari contest, and I was having my craft at hand. Yeah, so when I grow and these are the things influential, I discover food sovereignty now, bring food sovereignty to Pando. They were showing videos, documentation in about 3-4 villages, explaining from India what they failed when they had Monsanto. So that influenced the chief and people a lot. So that was my upliving now as a Rasta man. So after that program, when they get to Accra, they call me to join the Eco Village Network, and I discovered permaculture. And that was the first time when we visited permaculture structure. I never know a man can have a camp mind like how Bobo Shanti have it, where the man was the Rasta man. But not knowing he was sponsored by the Germans to go to Australia to learn the whole model of permaculture. That was his story he told me. Because there was a German who was failing in Ghana, in Kenya a lot about this permaculture introduction. But they told him that no white man can solve black people's problems. White people have this in mind. So he met a white man who told him that stop wasting your time, go to Ghana and look for Paul Yeboah, who was like, he was also trained in permaculture by he was working at, there's a monastery, there's monks in Bono, like the Techiman, they have monks. So the monks, the Australians came to train the farmers on the monks' property, but they never take it serious. So he saw the permaculture, he was practicing something with this. So another white man recommended him to another white man to go to Ghana and get that man who can have influence, because he as a white man cannot have influence in Africa if another African was not involved.
Not involved.
So yeah, so they get him there, they send him back to Germany. Actually, they made a mistake in his invitation to Germany as well, because I was the closest person to him after my training as the Eco Village member, because I was so influenced that how can a man who is not a Rasta man, where does he got all this from? So I was eager enough to, and he was more like officially and formalized that they get proposal. I go to institution on what Bobo Shanti was doing without being institutionalized. I go to institution talking about mushrooms, talking about everything they have, they was selling. And they have medicinal gardens. I was lost in mind of the kind of things they have. Moringa was selling in town. They have community growers, over 8,000 community growers, women groups, already before I entered the so. And there was one white man called Kofi Jatta who was selling moringa to Aswad. I remembered when Mighty Diamond was in Ghana, this man was there with all moringa products, but he never want any other Rasta man to know. He was a white man, but he have his locks. He never want nobody else to know that particular place. So he was like only selling to the Rasis. So he even got problem when I got exposed to that institution. But it was not too long that the owner of the institution passed away, about 2-3 years after our training. Okay. So and the wife was also educationist, but he was teaching more in the government sector, not with the husband. So now she took over the director of the institution, but we are the people the husband work with and leave every model, everything in our house. So we become the directors of the institution, facilitators for the institution to be there. Otherwise, the Germans were not convinced to be bringing their money if people like me is not ready to be in the institution. Even yesterday, I was here going to stress of giving her budget because we were writing proposal and my being here was affecting because communication wise. And I have to bring her budget of creating like we are trying to get a project from Jamestown prisons from the United Nations office. But you have to provide budget of if you are doing mushroom structure, 3 different apartments, what are the budget and estimate and everything. So you have to put that into the contents and convince the donors. So that was what I was here coming. So if we don't have that backup to the institution don't work or don't function. Sometimes the institution work with Germans who are like rehabilitation centers. So they have hard radical people. Then when I don't control them, the institution cannot do that. So there's a section of the permaculture that they find me so much important of being an integrated part of how these things can move. So and every day the Germans have been asking why such a brain have not been in Germany, but I am not willing to move out to being a white man. So being here on this Pan-African ahead of Cassie Habisha coming physically, but actually Baba Aswad was already known in the
town.
Latin water here. We know there was a racist and mother. Even I was selling the drawings of Shabaka that he drew Mandela, which were many of the products left by the Aswad and Shabaka here was taken care of by one brother who started to sell that thing. They call it Kojo in Kwati or something. So that was the way I know about I was selling Shabaka's product without even knowing him as a young Rasta.
So in terms of because there is a key bridging on the ground here in Ghana, and you have chosen agriculture as your niche, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do the regular Rastafari brethren that you encounter that are between the ages of, let's say, 20 and 60, how, this is the adult, young adult, mature adults, how do they view agriculture, and how many percentage of Rastafari brethren, how many are farming somewhat?
It's different region of where you coming from as Rastafari youth in Ghana. Because most people in Accra, it's difficult for them to move from Accra and have some, but there are various type of farm that are like having the good financial structures, most of the youth are willing. And secondly, to what it is most of the youth who don't have support as in a structure of how they can do something on their own. Farming is a thing where you have to start with a conscious mind. So if you don't have the conscious mind of going to farm, you see a farming as a punishment instead of being as a way of life. So as long as you don't see it as a way of life, it will be difficult for you to just go and start to develop a consciousness of being like this. But the thing is, when I met Rastafari like Bobo Camp, you can't live in a Bobo camp where you are not a farmer. So traditionally, and farming gives you some freedom because nobody can live without food. So me, as I do my researches as a Rasta young youth, and I discover permaculture, that we are doing things in the hands of other people who are making a lot of benefit out of it. So farming shouldn't always be like carry cattle as a hoe and go and attack the farmer. No, you can do farming in various understanding where artists can be a farmer. Everybody can play his role in the farming. That is new standard of farming, that when we communicate this level of farming to our young brother, they will understand. So maybe an artist can be in the farm, maybe you can develop, like maybe when there is a demarcation, he's an artist, can do all those. Even when there's a labeling of a community, like the trees, he can label every tree, get the botanical name. So an artist can also, but if you tell him, if I go and farm, like he will just hear about like you are trying to take him from his position to a different place. But accountant who is non-employed, he can organize other farmers in the community. He don't go to the farm, but every day he can. So this is how we have to interpret the broadness of the holistical approach to agriculture. So somebody, whether mason, carpenter, they can make beehives without wasting time. But what I learned from permaculture differently from African community, which is our biggest problem as black people, is we are not part of the beginners. We are not pioneers. Every day we want to build on success of others. And also we don't want to design, like we don't want to be originators of anything. For example, if you have like a carpenter not supposed to wait for somebody to be employed, you can do your beehives. So that's the dynamism I learned from agriculture, of permaculture, connected to the normal agriculture. The conventional agriculture make you monopolize. You can concentrate on one thing for life without having any solution. But with permaculture, if you're a carpenter, you can create your beehives, whereby the bees, you are not feeding them, but if you place the hive somewhere, Being a carpenter, you can still get your honey. And honey is more expensive than sugar, that is even a problem. So it's about understanding why it makes you to be an agriculturist and what contribution you can make to it in any which way background you think like you came from as human. You get me? And there's something we're moving from agriculture to agroecology to agrotourism, with the sense that like Kasi is an intentional made place. It's not like you go and discover an ecological like waterfall or mountain. It's a whole like plan.
Yes, plan.
Yeah, you get them sitting down, put it. So anything that somebody see here have to understand that it was intentionally put in place to satisfy you as the person who is seeing it. That's what permaculture let we understand that part. So it's not only about one side of monopolized way of farming, and also we are moving from the made tourism part to man-made tourism places like Askasi is. So that is the kind of level of agriculture. When you have your farm, you don't only expect to produce food and sell, but you can also have accommodation for somebody who can give you extended support. Because in Babylon, like in Germany and other places, you can see people looking for somebody to come and stay in their property to support, volunteer. But if we also develop agriculture to that level, it will be like a holistic approach that the whole community can be involved in the farming structure, not only that one people in the community, because they don't see the interest in it. So to me, how I'm seeing agriculture now from how I know it in the past, it can be more attractive to the youth when it's being broadcast in a whole holistic manner, if we can speak of them in a holistic manner. And also people are not aware of the changes in the international standard of life daily. That's one big problem in Africa.
Yes.
Because they are not aware of climate, they are not aware of any update. Imagine this young kid who came yesterday. They never heard about GMO. Even their teachers spend a lot of time with me, just the little contribution I did with food sovereignty. They don't know about GMO, they don't know about Monsanto, and already the SDGs already is moving from 2015 to 2030. We only have 5 years. But then people in Ghana don't even know about SDGs. And these are the affected standard of living that standardized by the United Nations to affect every community. And the motto is don't leave anyone behind. So who is there for my people? Who will let the people understand fully about this is their responsibility?
These are the goals.
Yeah, global citizenship. Like you can also build from any community, become a known in the global world because of the solutions that you are providing. Because they need people on global scale solving situations and giving interventions when it's needed, not only from maybe your locality or where you are. So you can't direct yourself that maybe you are from Liatiwote. You cannot be in the United Nations platform the same day talking about something very big. So this is the kind of mind I feel like when it's being educated into our people's society, and then we bring some kind of consciousness, there will be more of understanding of agriculture, because nobody can live without food, and agriculture is not only about food, clothes, and shelter. So you can't be a farmer, you don't have shelter in your farms. When the rain is falling, where will you hide? You can't be in a farmer where you don't have certain things. So it's not only about like putting our mind on the field of like no, it's not a punishment. And the Europeans make it very difficult for us, because even in the school they punish you with a piece of weeding, with cutlass and hoe. So you make farming look to you like it's a farmer punishment from the schools. So farming have to be happiness, and that's what I see with permaculture. And permanent agriculture to mean a whole year of farming. If you don't have fertilizer, produce it yourself. If you don't have seeds, look for your seed. But in the conventional farm, they wait till few months that they'll go and force the land, put chemicals, put everything and harvest and come and sit back.
Isn't traditional agriculture in Ghana permaculture?
Is it? But is there not
intensive?
Not about that. It's about the mindset.
Yeah, because when we walk to the waterfall, for example, you see cocoa, cacao, but then you also see cassava, yam. You know, everything is planted around in these plantations, which is a form of permaculture. But what would I say in terms of the difference between traditional Ghana agriculture and permaculture?
Permaculture is an old ancient. Anytime they ask me, I have a lot of videos I've done from the Permaculture Institute, many TV stations. What I normally say is, it's an old traditional way of living and life, but it's now be formalized and put to academical recognition, and certificate can be given. That's the only difference. But there's two ways into it. Whilst permaculture, the Europeans are taking our indigenous African way of knowledge, they are also giving us back what they are lost of as what is wrong to them, like fertilizer farming, chemical farming. So it's a two opposite thing. Even if you look around, you realize that there's a section of garden which is not a high forest bush, but you see palm, you see mango, you see pawpaw, you see few things. So normally that is traditional way of Africans' life. But now the same person who have the little garden is having a big acres of corn with fertilizer, big acres of tomato with chemical and spraying and all that. So it's about the mindset that's been drawing from the traditional agriculture to become a Europeanized conventional farm with too much use of chemical. That is what permaculture is withdrawing people again from to go back. So it's just like a Sankofa thing. You were unconsciously living in it. And that was the biggest expression that influenced my youth the first day when he came from the village. He never realized that people were sitting there back talking about, because his grandmother, his mother who gave him the first land, never used fertilizer yet in their whole life of farming.
Exactly.
But they, as young youth, begin to use. So by it wasn't too long for him. So he can remember 8 years from now where there was no fertilizer actively in their community. But now they come down to use fertilizer. And weedicides, insecticide, pesticide. So what is so dangerous is improper application of the chemicals on the field. And secondly, too, the people are using chemicals while the plants are still on the field. Like you can see corn and people are spraying through the corn. So it's about the practices that have lost from the touch from the traditional. So another intervention like permaculture or sustainability agriculture have to come in again as black identity to save the people's life. So whilst the Europeans are migrating to be Africans, we are migrating to be Europeans, which has been always the exchange of culture which we'll be practicing. That's what they taught us in the school. That's what they block our horizon of knowing bigger things and more things. So they limit the scope of the people in this level of understanding. And it will be a bit harder than how we understand it as Ras Tafari, because our point of understanding, I grow as self-reliance, self-sufficient, and provided everything. For me as a Rastaman, it's not difficult. But my brothers and sisters who are into the Christianized religious means of life, they have the bigger, because you have to take another way of, for them they are being victim of shock. If they are into something and they realize there is a shock to it, that is why they change. So once they realize there is a problem, now they can see a turnover from the organic side. Nobody will talk to them because the system don't promise them and doesn't last them for long. The system always is failing. So they always need alternative. But when the alternative is well prepared, that can give them outcome, they are ready to go as organic people. And I already see the influence in my community already with people. Because the amount of call I'm getting daily, like they're even ashamed to talk about things they are seeing here. Yeah, seriously. Because if a whole community is using fertilizer, buying it irregular, and they come to a community where they will be laughed at using fertilizer, I don't know how that might look like. You know, so that has been my journey, and food sovereignty Ghana has been a greater part. So I mentioned them yesterday that if they intervene and discover the permaculture, but it's all come about if there is a will, there is a way. Because
explain what food sovereignty Ghana is for the people.
Food sovereignty Ghana came about, I think, 2009 or 10, or between 2010 and 15. Then the government of Ghana brought a bill to parliament, what they call Plant Breeders Bill. We already were having, like, the Ras Tafari Council of Ghana, we're having the Pan-African Network, that the daughter of Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana, Samia Nkrumah, used to have marches. We used to demonstrate against government intervention which don't favor African people. So we were in Ghana when they brought the Plant Breeders Bill as a bill to stop the sustainable usage of traditional seed, plants, and things to breed the GMO seed, which they call. So when the Plant Breeders Bill is not in place, they cannot have the mandate to bring in any new seed to Ghana, because the Constitution of Ghana have boycotted all foreign seed. That's from the indigenous way of Kwame Nkrumah, how he write the Constitution and things to protect black people.
Yes.
But when our people want to bring in the Monsanto, they have to find a way that they amend the bill from parliament. That's what they call Plant Breeders Bill. There was no Plant Breeders Bill in Ghana. You can't breed no plant in Ghana, so automatically it's against any law of nature to breed any plant in Ghana, first of all. So when the GMO was coming, they have to convince the government to bring a bill that is Plant Breeders Bill that allow new genetically modified organisms to come to Ghana. So with that, we have to organize as Pan-Africans to demonstrate against government, take placards in Accra. So every March, we're having a regular date in Ghana, yearly, annually, that use some marches, like while the government was taken to court to explain what GMO was. So they halt the passing of the bill into law. And that has been there until now. They say they're giving some excuse to the people that you have to label the GMO, because our argument was, even if you are trying to bring GMO, which you are forcing the people not to deny it, educate them to understand the consequences of GMO and chemical usage, because already with the Ghana agriculture system, we have what we call hybrid seeds.
Yes.
These hybrid seeds are kind of seed when you maybe a corn, You plant 1 acre of corn, every year you have to go and buy back a seed from them 1 acre, because when you plant back the seed, it will grow without giving you fruits. The corn will not bear. So it's just a developing corn that yours will not bear. So you have to go back and buy it from them every year. So this was a standard of system which I was not satisfied with. It was already organizing people to fight against. Before they now bring in GMO, which is more higher than that joining other genes of animals, like pig can be combined with pawpaw or banana, and sometimes they can look so big that you will not see the pawpaw or you will not see the banana or tomato, but they will process it into another fruit or drink for you, which you'll be consuming without even knowing that indirectly or directly you are consuming GMO. And GMO stood against everybody's fundamental right, whether religious or ethnicity or anything, because if you are a Muslim, you don't eat pork, and you are eating tomato that's made out of combine of pork and tomato. How fair or safe are you as your religious belief? So GMO don't only limit and destroy human, but it also break down the traditional sustainability of culture, custom, and
intentionally,
and cult. You understand? Spirituality and all kind of behavior is being cut down, because even if you have egg that cannot fulfill the spiritual part, you cannot use it for the spiritual purposes. So GMO is a whole human indoctrination, so like diluting of human nature, making human beings look useless, helpless, and hopeless. Because if you don't have things that you hold on to as a tradition, and when they are lost and you are now using the digital part, how can you find the same understanding? So there is a big chain of breaking between GMO and traditional sustainability anytime we talk about Monsanto. That's why Food Sovereignty Ghana standing and having problem with the government in court to explain at least to, and that become like a whole broadcast of network. We shouting to Ghana.
Yes.
Ghana, look at what the government want to do to it. We're on TV, we're on radio, we're on marching of village. Imagine about maybe 200 people or maybe 100 people carrying placard walking to the street of Kwando who don't even know nothing about GMO. Even when marching, people were asking questions, what is this about, what is this about, and all that. We're trying to explain this.
Educating.
Yeah.
What was your role in Food Sovereignty Ghana? Did you have an official role?
I was the regional representative or regional chairman for them in VOTA. And I also was like the outreach person for them in the national.
Explain, we're here at the Kwaku Andal Sustainability Institute. You can see the background, the lushness. It's heaven on earth. Everyone who comes here agrees. Why is the Volta so important? Because it's no accident that this is in the Volta. And it's no accident that Volta is known as the bread basket. What's so special about the Volta?
To me, it's two things. It's about the eagerness of the people and also the environmental position, geographical location of the place. Because first of all, and also it's not being, there's a little critical issue about VOTA where it's not publicly or internationally recognized. That's why VOTA have a special attention and location. The Germans, with the combination of France and English, overthrew the Germans in Second World War. And here, this Volta was in control of the Germans. So the Germans have to run, and then the English and French have to demarcate their locations. So part of this Volta was given to Ghana in the name of English, and then part of Togo was given to Benin as in the name of French. But it came to a time where French freed Togo to be on their own independently. But still, Volta is under Ghana, which is not, they've not concluded on how the future of Ghana and Volta look like. So Volta is like a place that has been abandoned by the English for Ghana to take care of. So under United Nations, Volta is not legally under Ghana as a part of its nations. That's why Ghana cannot come easily and take some resources out of Volta without a proper negotiation. And there's no negotiation with the elders and structure of Volta. So Volta is just a nation on its own, but it's within a country. That is the first of advantage. And also the highest mountain in the region, the waterfalls, the beauty of it always do a lot of attraction. And Volta is also located in a region that though you are in Ghana, you are now like a border of Ghana and Togo.
Yes.
And Togo is not far from Benin, and Benin is not far from Nigeria. So when you are in Volta, you are even closer to some of the states' capital, like in Accra. We are closer to Lome than Accra, whereby Lome is the capital of Togo. So being here, we take advantage of, and it's just like artificial borders born of 1844 by the Europeans. They demarcate artificial borders between human beings and say that's nation. So Ghanaians and Togolese work together. They share business, resources, and even everything together across border. So being a voter is a very advantageous that for many different things that happen in favor. And also, it never ends that we as Rastafari, we also take our enthusiasm into Rastafari. So there were a lot of Rastafari activities. Actually, when you go to Accra and you reach as Ghana and you talk of Rastafari, meaning Accra being a city presence, there will not be any region mentioned to you about Rastafari than Volta. That one is something factual in Ghana. Okay. Kumasi, Cape Coast, when we are doing our conference, most of them are not so active member-wise, like how the Volta Rastafari community take it to seriousness.
Why do you think there are so many Rasses come up in the Volta?
It's because of the organizational structure, because most of the time when we even organize programs earlier, and what we're lacking with, we understood the Rastafari very early. So even before 2000, we were already doing practices of Rastafari in Volta. And every time we have a program, we invite people from all over the world and all over Ghana. So there was a time where Volta was like like everything about Rastafari was Volta, before even the National Council was formed. So before the Rastafari Council of Ghana was formed, we were already having a Volta entity independently by its own, known by Jahaswa, Black Madonna, and all. So most of the program we were doing was not even in favor of the Rastafari Council until they were formed. So the Rastafari Council had the different mansions that were operationally on their separate background before the council had the national umbrella to fight against some of the political problems we have in the country.
Well, I give thanks for the insight. Talk to us about the Peasant Association of Ghana.
Okay.
How did the link with those ones, and what is the purpose of the Peasant Association?
Okay, the Peasant Farmer Association of Ghana is like a membership for everybody who is a farmer in Ghana, whether you are conventional agriculturist or you're an organic farmer. But what background or the platform it created for the farmers is government have a lot of what they call capitalism, seizing of people food. First of all, when they say agro is good, but when they say agro business, the business aspect of it send everything to different concentration on the multilateral companies, big companies, a capitalist economy. So Ghana is not given the privilege to grow what they eat and eat what they grow. Mostly you see a lot of importation of rice, tomato, unnecessary things that can be grown here. So what it is like the farmers and people realize that if we don't stand as a people for ourselves, the government is not watching our favor. So our organization decides everything. So many farmers from different countries or different parts of the country begin to come together to form this what they call. The Peasant Association of Ghana is the biggest opposition to government structure because they have a sustainable way of doing things what government is not ready to accept into their governance. So they always talk about the limitation of food in Ghana, the shortages of food that they have to bring things from there. But the smaller holder of the farms who also realized that, and many statistics was done in Ghana, we realized that the peasant farmers are doing more than the capitalist farmers or the commercial farmers. Oh, okay. Because the commercial farmer have to do a lot of input, investment, clear down every bush before start to farm. But the peasant farmer can go into a smaller number of square and start to farm and start to involve other people. So they don't damage and do harm to the land like commercial farmers or who want to have a whole plot clear, bulldozer down before it's mango, they start to plant mango. So the peasant farmer feed the nation more than the normal so-called giant farmers because they have to have hundreds of millions before they can go into equipment, investment. They have to have millions of money before to go storage equipment, and they have to hoard their food. So before they take all care of all these things, you realize that the people pay price for nothing. But if the smaller farmers who always go to market, like somebody is like, when they say hand to mouth, living life or hustler, like everything you have to sell it to make something. So maybe somebody have acres of corn, immediately she harvests it, she will sell it because she also needs her welfare and her well-being. But with the commercial farmer or conventional farmer, they can keep the thing, and because they are company and they are not controlled by whatever happened, they will decide when I want to sell. So the peasant farmer realized in Ghana that we are supplying more to the market directly for consumption of farmers or people in the country than the so-called giant farms, which people today are rather feeding the nation. So you see big farm with cattle, tractors and everything, you might thought they are feeding the nation, but you end up realize that the structure at what they are using, a farmer can farm 2-3 times, whereby they don't even farm once, because if they have to use a whole year for preparation, they have to use number of months. So you realize that with the conventional and chemical agriculture, it's very difficult to position ourselves as people. Yeah, but with this, yeah, you know.
The work that this brother is doing is amazing. You know, I'm in awe hear the articulation, because the workers are few, and I know that the workers are few. And the thing I love about this brethren is that he always try to bring ones from his community around, educate others. I can see that they have that iris of education. So I love how they do that. What I would love is to know how can my audience, the Global Lion Pride, how can they support the eye? Because I feel very strongly when I see frontline soldiers, I know it's a lot of sacrifice that the eye make.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you have to spend your own money to do a lot of stuff.
People don't even mind. And one problem is you are working for a community that don't even know what you are doing, so they don't even care. But they are spending resources on people who don't even care for them.
Yes.
They have budgets for people who just go for some funny stories that is against them, like in the community level. They can read budget to the community. We've sent this man to go and inquire, which are all Europeanized identity of structure. But to come to black identity, from you say black, nobody is there for you. Even the same black community you are fighting for them to get stronger behind you, they rather become like a problem to you. So it's like every time you have to use. The reason why I make the brother came from the community was he rise to the position of secretary to the chief. So when we came to the community, there was a community that Shabaka came to. I brought him years back to and it's been like when elder races come, because I have to package them, I have to go and tell the community, this way people want to farm cassava, they want to do that, they want to live with you people, they have big support from the international community that they can help you people to have some intervention. So these are some of the things I have to tell the community to accept the people. So when I know my people like Shabaka, people who are from Ripat community are living in the community, I don't always want to leave them behind, because I know how sometimes myopic or negative the community can be. They don't understand the brother, sometimes the language, the accent, everything. So I always provide a space of integration, that because I can't always be with the people. But if every day they want to look to me to make the changes, not every day I'll have that strength. So, and I see more younger youth who are wasting their energy in different directions that doesn't benefit us. So when I find that there's a chance for them also to see what we are, and mostly too, they don't see us as open. And this affected my own son. So when I went to check school for him, people were fighting me of how they feel like I ignore them to look for community work and what is supposed to. So it's like mostly community don't understand what I do. But my father brethren was telling me that when my son came here, in some few times that he was here, he was lost himself. So it's like people don't even really understand what I do, why it's for them. So that is why anytime there's a space like this is what I identify with. And so I want them to get closer and get the inside of it, that they don't define us like what they see, but they define us by what they see us doing and know us. And I see that that's been the part we keep from society so long. So they define me, Rasta, you are this and that. But meanwhile, we're doing great stuff to the community. And because I went to the school, even they were talking about his hair, and I say, oh, we have institution bigger, even higher than the institution in the community. Why should we always be fought against? And they say, but your people don't tell you, what do you do? You work for yourself. But we are working as a Roman Catholic is talking as if they are working for the community. But Cassie is doing for the community more than what the Roman, because every Sunday you go to church and contribute. You ask them what they use the money for. These are some of the few changes I want to see in Africa. Yeah. A person cannot go to church and contribute money every day without asking the church, what is the money for? And chief and people are not stepping in to save our people's life from it, because it's being created from the colonialization of people's mind. Every day you go to church and put your money to the money box, which not that you are overrich, that you want to support, but it's out of your ignorance. So when I see the community behaving in more negative direction, and most of the time I have to spend my resources, we go to Accra, do everything. If not, they are carrying me with bike. Even the first day you carry me, I have to pay for fuel. So you can't spend your own resource on a community development project that have to support a whole community in the future. So this is how the community has been. They don't understand how we black people, we want to bring a lot of intervention. So the Europeans make it look like we are rather enemy to ourselves more than helping ourselves. So we are finding it difficult to organize, to save the problems that belong to we African than to be working for a community that don't even recognize us, you know. So that is like, for example, the youth there, they can be proud to be a Roman Catholic, they can be proud to be a mass boy, but they cannot be proud to be called a Rasta man or being an African by themselves, which is very sad as an African.
It's a brain program.
So with that, you can't even expect that you are doing something in the name of Africa, you expect somebody to support like something like the madness or so even if you ask the Empress one from the book club. That's why I care for them a lot. Anything I'm doing, I involve them because I know people who sacrifice and put their lifeline for Rastafari. But within our umbrella as people, there's no form of recognition for you to see. People have not done so much in the community, but they have community recognition, they hold position for the community. But what these people have been contributing. So me, I recognize people who are putting, for example, I will say, when Cassie was even inviting me, just even know how alternative opportunities I have with permaculture and where I'm supposed to be. But because I know this is black and the energy the brothers are bringing in, if we had that before, would I have a comfortable community than that? I can't see the energy of Cassie and sacrifice for anything because to encourage, because we are very few. Do what you are doing sometimes, as you are telling, you also spend your resources for many of the black people. So if I see you putting that energy, I see you in the same shoe with me, that I'll be the least time to not spend that time here. Because I feel like we are in the same family. And even yesterday when I saw Biggie going through the light, I know how we feel as organizers. And it's been like, here is the only program that I'm part of that I'm a bit free. That sometimes I forget that I'm not part of the organization. So sometimes I carry plate, then I realize that no, I'm in a different environment. But this is what it's been. Sometimes the pressure will be on you until the last person eats. And you get, so it's like this sort of organizations. Sometimes these are the things that don't make you even concentrate as human. Sometimes you can lose out of your mind because sometimes it will be too much for you. That sometimes you lost whether you have time in life or you have. So it always comes to many a time. But when I see people putting the same energy together, I always want to make sure that we are together as family, that it strengthens each other. Because if I'm doing program, I see people present, it strengthens me that I'm not alone. So the next person to I'm doing the same thing to me, we are not enough in the black struggle. So this is
we need to encourage more. I love how Kazi is integrated with the village, the town, the kingdom, the I Speak Ewe. First of all, explain who are the Ewe people. And then explain, because we hear the chief and the people talking Ewe, but we don't understand. You understand. Do you feel it's sincere, the love that is being expressed, and how do you see it as, because these are your people, you know, how do you see that communication, and do you think that anything needs to be improved, or what, or could this be a model? But start with, who are the Ewe people?
Actually, I would say, from their background of history, normally they would say they are part of the migration of, let's say, they normally say Israelites from Jerusalem. That's where they started, through Egypt, everywhere, through Sudan. But finally, before the main history of the Ewe started to spread, that was in Nigeria, what they call Ewe or something. Then from there, they traveled to one place they call Ngoche, which is Togo. So Ngoche was while my people migrated to reach Ghana today, Ngoche was ruled by a very strong king, like dictatorship kind of king they call Agokoli. Agokoli was in a part of Togo that used to come to the mountains of this region and saw the whole vast land to how vast the land was. So he didn't want nobody else to pass behind him. So they make a wall thick to a size of some, I can't even remember the size of wall. So people were in that wall and they took years and ages to build that. Those things are still remain in Togo, called a place they call Ngoche. So, and they even have tiles made up of normal natural tile, clay tile that they make, which the remains are still there from that time. So the Ewe spend most of their time there. That's when we talk about Ewe from the Volta part of like Hohwe, Kwando, Ho, all those people that are here today. They spend a lot of time in the Agokoli's kingdom for years. Then they were maltreated, they were given a lot of hardship, like how the Israelites were in Egypt. Sometimes they were mixing bottles and nails into mud for them to. I think they have a whole documentation and history that they used to teach other generation of Ewe people on radio. They have sometimes radio station have section of that. So they would tell you when the program chief will say, "Go and bring me a rope made out of mud." Sometimes the king Agokoli would demand, "They go and bring me a rope made out of mud." So they also say, "Give us an example of what you have made before." So there was a whole lot of struggle. So they develop a mind, because in Africa, the black people, the more you pressure them, the more you give them freedom to move. So they develop a whole mindset. So they decide that there was one room, they build a room against the wall. And that room was for a particular purpose, that every time people go into the room and all they do is they use the hoe. That's why hoe people for here they call asogli. Asogli people mean like aso mean hoe. Then they were using the assault every day to dig the hole. In the hole to pass, like the wall is here like this. You have to dig a hole under the wall to bypass the wall so they can see a light out of the tunnel. So that's what they were doing for ages and years. So every time the women wash their bowl, they will bring their water, dirty water to that room secretly, which Agokoli's kingdom was not knowing. So it was a time they have to escape out of the wall. So there is a journey they call escaping from the wall, which they used when they were moving. They don't want the Agokoli man to see where they were journeying to, so they move backwards for all the journey until they move out of the wall. So when they move out of the wall of Agokoli, then they separated to wherever they are today. So Hokwe is also controlled by some section of group of people, and Hokwe have their remains in Peki. So Hokwe and Peki have the same family name they call Gbi. Gbi mean like a group of one Hokwe people. Then they have Akpini, which is Pando. Pando also is a tribe on their own. They have the Ho, who is Asogli. So the way they were in the various communities within the Agokoli kingdom, Ngoche kingdom, that's how they managed to separate. So when you see them in various places today, they settle in Volta. It was their final state before reaching here was the story from Agokoli, who was in Togo. Ngoche is in Togo place, where they moved from Ngoche now to settle here where they are today as Ghana, as part of Volta region. Before the independent, the white man struggle and all those came in, and then actually Pando still have remain of, my community still have remain of slave trade, because the prison service that they used to do as prisons was not a prison, it was a German slave castle build. Okay. It's a whole German quarters, like it's a whole German community build. So they have the court, they have various departments which is still existing in Pando today, where they use as a prisons. So the German, after they settled, German were the first colonial masters who came here. So they were ruling from, and they were using Togo and Ghana as one town. So Palime was just a town and Volta part of the country. So it came to a time, Togo Dagadu, I think the third or the fourth Kinanku, he was the paramount from Pando to Palime, and that time he was the only paid king in the community, because he fought the white people and know what they have to get as a position. So no other king around here was qualified to that. So he was still contending, like he was qualified to get payment monthly as a king, while ruling his people as a black king.
Okay.
Yeah, but there was a time he was fighting the Germans, so they took him to some islands, it's a Seychelles island or some. So he was taken to on exile from the Pando community. And when the car came, they were strong spiritual people, so the car refused to move for a number of days. And he told them that when he go, he will still be coming back, so they should allow him to go. So this has been the story of so everybody settled in their own way, but they were colonized by the Germans. So when you come to these communities, you still see the remains of the German walls. So yes. German never was different from Togo, and this part of Ghana's Volta was part of piece of Togo. So the same building German structure you see in Palime, Lomé, and all the mountains here is the same continuation of German settlement until the Second World War, when Germans were overthrown. Then the British and the France people shared their resources.
And then so that being said now, when you come to the Habesha and you see the relationship that we've created with Leate Wote, being a native Ewe speaker, how do you feel when you hear the royal family or ones from the community speaking?
That's the way it's supposed to be. Me, I expect to see more than that.
Okay.
Because we black people of the world, we can't live in isolation.
No.
And it's going to be longer, and it's still not everybody who understands the integrating part. Because about 3-4 days ago, when I was on the road, I was trying to get some materials done, and then the woman was telling me, this village don't entertain me. I said, no, but you are people from far place in the country now who are here, so you don't have to limit. And he was talking about, Ras Tafari, they don't even understand. When I said, no, the amount of project Cassie brought here, and for you people, your intervention, me, I can, even if you can cook and you can put something in a proper place, the time will come, this community will be flooded with people, just the beginning. So when we are holding a conference, it's just like a little piece of maker in the world, as how Arab man will build maker. This is a little piece of maker to organize our people to come back home. So they should see it. But already they have seen it in the point of, they're already living in a tourism zone, so they know when people come to Tagbo Falls. So they don't see it as exceptional change, but when they see the importance of Cassie and what Cassie is doing, like integrating with the schools and everything, then they see that this is not the normal. Once they are living in the community and trying to integrate and speak to the people one-on-one, it's every day. We have a number of years we have to allow programs to enroll for people. So it's not everybody currently who have the full benefit, the potential of what you started now, the important and the implementation, but generation of children that will grow. Because when I was with the GMO food sovereignty yesterday and explained to the young one, I feel how they were encouraged and how they were empowered and how they were lost in mind, why they see the importance of being here. And their teacher who brought them also now understood. But most of the time when you just speak English and you explain, it's not everything that they get one by one. So it's equally well that there must be an integration between the community gradually where somebody have to who understand the language. And that's the role me I play in my community a lot because no matter what, when I break down the Ras Tafari culture, and I was just telling Bobby this morning that I learned something that I was not doing, like Ras Tafari have to be interpreted back to the Ewe community to how it is. When people sing and talk about Jesus and everything, we also have to bring our Ras Tafari choruses and things to break down the understanding of what, like Cassie, what Cassie have done. If no Ras Tafari, we couldn't have got that. And in the community, Shabaka's name is playing in music because they make music with his name that without him. And I was there in Africa is in a place that no matter what you do, because she told me she had a friend who is being crowned here as a queen mother. So I said, no, those things are just title. Africa is in such a place that from you bring intervention to the community, you'll be recognized as such. So many races like Bokla in his community, they're giving him serious attention, different attention. But when he started, he was getting a lot of fight from the community.
Yes.
Even Shabaka in my community now, they have made music over his name because people were talking about when he wasn't here. And let me speak truly with this. What amount of intervention Ras Tafari or the repatriation brought to Volta is exceptionally different from any other region. I don't know of the region, but without the repatriation, something like cannabis freedom cannot be in Volta. They have understood it from that part and they give a lot of space. So even Shabaka's name is mentioned in music. And last week or so, I was with some brothers from the community. When rain was falling, they were mentioning Shabaka's name, they're shouting there because of him. They cannot live in a roof where they cannot even sleep because the roof will be leaking all over. So to them, the economical empowerment that they are entertaining or they are enjoying from the Ras Tafari community, they recognize that every day. And that's the similar thing they see like Cassie is doing. So definitely your name will be made and your mark will be mark on any piece of wood or anything in the community as long as you make a difference. That's how it is in Africa. So even my community, Shabaka is being recognized. They all repart. Bobo drives through everywhere now and then the people shout his name. But in the beginning it wasn't so. It was real fight. And people buy, even Bobo lose a lot of land I see before because he was not a Ghanaian. That's how they see him. Yeah, but through me, I'm born and grow here. And my locks is as long as they think. So now my family people, now they can't see who is who from who is who. So I think the indigenous interruption of Ras Tafari or we being part of it also play a lot of role because if you are fighting us, I'm also from your house. And how can you go and who are you going to fight now? But if like separately from the brothers from diaspora who are trying to practice Ras Tafari on the continent, to be more difficult and for more hard for them to penetrate through. But once we are also here, so everything we are seeing in life is about time. If we allow time for things to be plant, time to water it, time to nurture it and allow it to grow. If we have those model of life, I realize that I will not see that anything is too late or too old to be done. So that's why I see the journey of Ras Tafari and the work you are carrying is very hard work and you can't expect to see changes overnight. So we have to have that patience at time that maybe you might not even live to see the fruit of it, but it's a big background that you have started and you just have to keep it strongly and moving forward without even watching nowhere, because if you want encouragement from outside your realms, you even get discouraged. So it's just a moving forward work, and until a time will come, these things will be spoken of not as we are saying this, but it will be the manifestation of itself. And the people who are putting the energy, because His Majesty say anything you see done, it's number of people who put their minds and energy into it whilst you see it prepared in a room before you see the physical end of the expression. So it's not the expression that starts the work, but it's the completion of what the conclusion is. So I think that is the only strength and advice I would like to give to Cassie, so that keep it up.
And people, Volta is a Rastafari heaven because it's so green and lush, and agriculture, and the people are humble. Is a perfect, and as the brethren say, the Rastafari vibration is already here. Most races in the country come from this region, so it's a perfect place. I plan to do more work here in the coming years. We'll keep ones posted. Let people know how they can contact the eye and support and spend money with the eye.
Okay. I have my bank account, but I don't have that number in mind now. But I have my mobile number, 02444 80067. 02444 80067. And I'm on the Facebook, I'm on a lot of media as well.
What's your name on Facebook?
Bobo Selassie or Akwansi Selassie.
So send him a email, a Facebook. Are you on Instagram?
No, not yet.
Yes. Send him a message on Facebook. Support the Brethren's works. The Brethren has a clothes, different things as well, products. Follow the Brethren. One of the premier Brethren in Ghana, Ras Tafari, agriculture, permaculture expert, consult. If you're doing farming projects in Ghana, you might want to book some time with the Brethren and save yourself a lot of headache and problems, because he knows his things. We're going to be working with him more here at Kazi and at Habisha, so you'll see a lot more of this, Brethren. Any final words for the global family?
Yeah, man, I would just say the global family to be strong, because it's not too late and better than now. We also having offices and spaces that have been created for the Brethren through the work of Kasi. We are seeing the physical expression of the demonstration. So more of that should be done. The brothers in the diaspora shouldn't worry, they should come home, because the future of the world is problematic. I work with the United Nations departments and I know how the future problematic of the world is being concerned and problems with the whole global nation. And when that happens, nobody will be there to help us as black people. So before anything we start thinking about where we start from, we have to be heading towards home, and Africa is home, and we are here as African brothers to support the movement, So more space, more room for improvement, and we give thanks for Kasi, because when the space is not created, you can't organize anything, So the space is the first thing. In Africa, you have to buy your space to free yourself from anything. So we give thanks for the works, and we give thanks for the great work from Kasi. And Habisha, not to be forgotten, they are the brain behind all this. So Kasi, respect and big up, and guide and protect, and
yes,
Lion Voice Network, we're there too.
Yes.
Anytime we contribute.
There you have it. And you see the great Bobo Selassie here. Get used to the face. Why? Because the time has come for the lions to tell our own story. And this is the Lion's Voice.
Yeah, Ras Tafari, Emperor Haile Selassie the first. Tell the people about Empress Mene. Well, even if the stars they fall and the moon turn into blood, but through the coming war we stand tall. I will shower you with my love, and even when the people start ball, 'cause they see the city streets and flood. But when the hurricane blow down your wall, I'll be by your side and me nah budge. Think I found the love of a lifetime. I love you every day or the night time. Almighty, I made your light shine, and unto I, your love was a lifeline. Think I found the love of a lifetime. I love you every day or the night time. Almighty, I made your light shine, and unto I, that light was a lifeline. It seems like the world is upside down. I will never hide, I'd rather stand my ground. Lion of Judah blessed with the triple crown. Can't come fool I with no circus clown. Now fear no hurricane or the cyclone. Respect for Mama Earth with that embedded on me bone. That's why I will never leave you alone. Protect you from harm when the alarm sound. So even when the stars they fall and the moon turn into blood, to the coming war we stand tall. I will shower you with my love, and even when the people start ball, 'cause they see their city streets then flood. When the hurricane blow down our wall, I'll be by your side and me not budge. Think I found the love of a lifetime. I love you every day or the night time. The Almighty, I made your light shine, and unto I, your light was a lifeline. I think I found the love of a lifetime. I love you every day or the night time. The Almighty, I made your light shine, and unto I, your love was a lifeline. They say hurt people, maybe that's why Babylon them so evil. Maybe Babylon abused as a child. That's why them no like the light when you smile. That's why them no like how your body curve, the way how you dance. step on Babylon nerve. Them don't know how the Almighty you serve. Want to be a queen, so a king you deserve. And I'll be by your side when things get worse. When the city flood cause the dam just burst. When you can depend on your state or church. Firm like a Menin and Haile Selassie firm.